Today, I'll tell you the story of one of the most absolutely metal hand-to-hand confirmed kills during the Vietnam War, which took place underwater. After naval engagement between the United States and the North Vietnamese in the Gulf of Tonkin, in August of 1964, the US Congress granted then-President Lyndon Johnson the ability to increase military presence in the region. While the US had been militarily active in South Vietnam for some time, this event is considered the beginning of what we know today as the Vietnam War. At this time, Vietnam was split into two separate countries: US-friendly South Vietnam, known as the Republic of Vietnam, and Northern Vietnam, which was backed by the Chinese and Soviet communist regimes. American ground forces ranged between 180,000 and 500,000 during the course of the conflict, with the primary purpose of preventing a communist takeover of South Vietnam. US troops had to not only contend with the North Vietnamese Army, a conventional fighting force, but also the communist-sympathizing guerrilla warfighters known as the Viet Cong. This dynamic led to unconventional tactics by the Vietnamese fighters, which included sabotage, booby traps, and an underground network of tunnels that allowed the enemy to navigate undetected, seemingly appearing and disappearing without a trace, sometimes even from water. In addition to underwater repairs, demolition, equipment recovery, and general reconnaissance, another responsibility of Force Recon Marines during this time was locating the underwater entrances to the North Vietnamese tunnel network. Force Recon is an elite group within the US Marine Corps that focuses on intelligence gathering in hostile environments. Between the years of 1967 and 1968, Sergeant Robert Hughes served as an NCO in the 1st Force Recon Company. Hughes was a leader for one of the dive teams that carried out these operations. Despite being known among his team as a gentle giant for his calm demeanor and larger-than-life physical status, Hughes was a formidable force. After US troops watched a Vietnamese soldier disappear into a river, never to resurface, one of these underwater tunnel entrances was suspected. Hughes and his team were dispatched, and the events that would follow would make both wartime and modern military history. Preparing to enter the water and suspecting that there may be an encounter, Hughes' team geared up in standard issue equipment of the time. This included double hose regulators and their K-bar knives. Given that standard issue sidearms couldn't cycle and were ineffective underwater, there were no firearms taken. Hughes, entering the extremely murky water and with only a few feet of visibility, began to systematically search for the entrance to the enemy's tunnel network. This was extremely unforgiving work that required an immense amount of courage, as current, debris, enemy ordnance, and wildlife all threatened the safety of a diver. Inch by inch, Hughes swam, with one hand feeling the bank of the river, searching for that opening, and in his other, tightly gripping his K-bar knife. This would have been accompanied by a violent rush of bubbles with every exhale, the eerie sound of gas filling the regulator with every inhale, and a reduction of visibility with every kick and every touch of the bank underwater. After a labored and systematic search, Hughes eventually found the tunnel, but no sooner did this happen when an enemy diver came rushing out at him. This was an ambush. As the enemy diver rushed toward Hughes, he noticed through the murk the reflection of a knife glittering in the sun. Hughes grabbed the diver's wrist to prevent himself from being stabbed, and tried to take this opportunity to dispatch the enemy with his own knife. However, the North Vietnamese diver was able to stop him in the same way. The two were now locked in hand-to-hand combat, with the deciding factor being strength, stamina, or the pure will to live. The two divers struggled, each attempting to stab the other, doing anything they could to gain the upper hand. Hughes knew that continuing this fight would be a death trap. Subsequently, he spit his regulator out of his mouth, rendering him incapable of taking a breath, but providing him an opportunity. In one swift motion, and with adrenaline pumping, Hughes wrapped his legs around the diver. Squeezing with all he could, he brought himself face to face with the enemy. Savagely, lunging forward, Hughes bit down on the enemy's neck, and with his teeth, ripped his throat out. With his knife hand now free from the enemy's grasp, Hughes took the opportunity to plunge it repeatedly into the enemy diver, killing him. This was Sergeant Robert Hughes' second confirmed underwater kill of the war. Sergeant Hughes would later be honorably discharged in 1974 and returned to his home state of Pennsylvania. Robert Hughes passed away in 1990, but his legacy, courage, and will to live will forever be remembered. You've been listening to Vince with Flippers and Goggles. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment. If you have any suggestions for content, or you have a story of your own that you would like to be told, please let me know. See you in the next video.